An Amish farmer sits down to breakfast at 4:30 in the morning, and by 5:30 he's out in the field, and he will work hard, physically, without stopping for another meal until the middle of the day. 7, 8 hours of genuine labor, no snack, no coffee break, no sitting down. And he doesn't fade, doesn't get shaky, doesn't get that hollow gnawing feeling at 10 in the morning that sends most folks hunting for something sweet. He just keeps going. And the whole reason is what was on that table at 4:30. And today I'm going to tell you exactly what it is and why it works and what most folks are getting wrong every single morning of their lives. So let me get right into it. Now let me tell you what that breakfast actually is, and I'll warn you now, it's going to sound like the opposite of everything you've been told. There are eggs, 3 or 4 of them, fried in lard or baking grease or butter. There's bacon or ham or scrapple or sausage. There are potatoes fried up in that same grease. There's often mush, which is cornmeal cooked thick and then sliced and fried. There's thick bread, real bread, with real butter on it. There might be oatmeal, the proper long cooking kind, with cream and a little honey. And there's coffee. And on the table besides, there's applesauce, or fruit put up from summer, and maybe pie, because pie at breakfast was never strange in an Amish kitchen. That's the breakfast. And I know exactly what a lot of folks are thinking right now, because it goes against every single thing the modern world has told you about a healthy morning. But look at what it's actually made of, and you'll see why it works. The heart of it is this, and here's the real answer. It's fat and protein, in serious quantity, and very little sugar. That's the whole engine of it. Let me explain why that matters so much, because once you see it, you can't unsee it, and it explains your entire morning. When you eat fat and protein, your body digests them slowly. Slowly. They sit in you and release their energy gradually over hours, a long, steady burn like a good hardwood log on the fire. There's no spike and there's no crash, just a long, even output that carries you hour after hour without you ever thinking about it. That's why the farmer can work 7 hours and never flag. He's burning a log. Now look at what most folks eat in the morning. Cereal, toast and jam, a pastry, a muffin, a sweetened yogurt, a granola bar, juice, a coffee with sugar in it. And nearly every single one of those things is refined carbohydrate and sugar, which is to say the exact opposite. Sugar burns like paper. It flares up fast and bright, gives you a lovely quick lift, and then it's gone. And it's gone completely in about 90 minutes. And when it goes, your blood sugar drops out from under you, and you feel it. That hollow, tired, irritable, foggy, gnawing feeling at 10:30 in the morning. And what does your body demand at that exact moment? More sugar. So you get a snack, and up you go and down you crash again. And you do that 3 or 4 times a day for your entire life, and you call it normal. And you think you're just a person who gets hungry a lot. You're not. You're a person burning paper. That's the whole thing right there. And here's the part that should make you angry, honestly. Look at what's actually being sold to folks for breakfast. Cereal. Instant oats with sugar in them. Breakfast bars. Pastries. Sweetened yogurts. Juice. Almost all of it is sugar in a box with a picture of a sunrise on it. And it's sold as the healthy, sensible, modern way to start a day. But a breakfast made of sugar is a breakfast that guarantees you'll be hungry again in 90 minutes, which means you'll buy something else. And in 90 minutes after that, something else again. A breakfast that doesn't hold you is a breakfast that sells more breakfast. Now, I'm not going to tell you anybody sat in a room and planned that out to trap you. But I will tell you that a food which leaves you hungry is a better business than a food which fills you up. And the market has been quietly figuring that out for 100 years without anybody needing to plot a thing. Now let me give you the 4 things that make the old breakfast work, so you can take them whatever your life looks like. The first is fat, and don't be afraid of it. The lard, the butter, the bacon grease, the cream, the egg yolks. Fat is the slowest burning, longest lasting fuel a body has, and it's also what makes a meal satisfying, that solid, contented feeling of being properly fed. A breakfast with no fat in it will leave you empty no matter how much of it you eat. The second is protein, and plenty. The eggs and the meat. Protein is what keeps you full, genuinely full, in a way that carbohydrates simply cannot do. And it's what your muscles need to do the work and recover from it. The third is that it's whole and real. Nothing on that table came from a factory. Eggs from the hens out back, meat from the hog they raised, potatoes from the garden, bread from flour and yeast, butter from the cow. Every bit of it is a real food that was recently alive, and nothing on that table has an ingredients list, because everything on it is an ingredient. And the fourth is that it's big, genuinely big, because it has a genuinely big job to do, which is to carry a working body through 7 or 8 hours of hard labor. And that's the piece that has to be honest. And I'll come to that in a moment. I'm going to tell you about the rhythm of the whole day too, because the breakfast only makes sense as part of it. My people eat 3 real meals, and that's all. And there's no grazing in between. Breakfast before dawn, enormous, as I've described. Then dinner in the middle of the day, and mind, dinner is the noon meal in an Amish house, and it's the biggest one of the lot. Meat and potatoes and vegetables put up from the garden, and bread and gravy and pie. Then supper in the evening, lighter, soup and bread and cheese and whatever's about. 3 meals, spaced far apart, each one substantial, and nothing whatsoever in between them. Now most folks couldn't do that. They'd be climbing the walls by 10. And they think that means the Amish have some iron discipline about snacking. They don't. There's no discipline in it at all. Nobody's resisting anything. They simply aren't hungry, because what they ate at 4:30 is still burning at 10:30, and will burn right through to noon. When your food actually holds you, not snacking isn't willpower, it's just what naturally happens. And that's worth sitting with, because so much of what folks think is a character failing, this constant grazing and reaching for something, isn't a character failing at all. It's a fuel problem. Fix the fuel, and the willpower question disappears entirely, because there was never a willpower question in the first place. And let me say something about the coffee, since I mentioned it. Yes, there's coffee on that table, and plenty of it, and my people drink it black or with a little cream, not turned into a sweet drink. There's a difference between a cup of coffee and a cup of sugar with coffee flavor in it, and the modern world has thoroughly blurred that line. A black coffee alongside a proper breakfast of eggs and bacon is one thing. A large sweet coffee drink standing in for breakfast entirely is another thing altogether. And it's the paper fire again, and by 10:30, you'll be hunting for the next one. Let me put you in that kitchen for a minute, because it's worth seeing. It's dark out, properly dark, well before any light in the sky. The stove's been lit, and the whole room is warm and smells of bacon fat and coffee. The woman of the house has been up before everyone, and the pans are going. The men come in from the first round of chores, because, mind, the milking's already done before anyone eats. And they come in cold and already hungry from an hour's work. And everybody sits down together, the whole family, and there's a silent grace. And then they eat, properly, without hurry, with talk about what the day holds and who's doing what. 15, 20 minutes, all of them at one table. And then the plates are cleared and they're gone out the door into the dark, and the day begins. Now notice what that is. It isn't just fuel. It's the family together every single morning before the world starts pulling at them. Compare it to the modern morning. Everyone up at a different hour, Everyone eating a different thing, standing up, or in the car, or not at all. Everyone looking at a screen, nobody speaking. We didn't just lose the eggs and the bacon. We lost the table. And I'd say the table might be worth more than the breakfast, though thankfully you can have them both, and it costs nothing but the decision to sit down together. And here's a piece of history worth knowing because it explains how we got here. That old breakfast, the eggs and meat and fat, is what nearly everybody in this country ate for a very long time. It wasn't Amish, it was simply breakfast. What changed it wasn't a discovery about health. What changed it was that folks worked out you could sell processed grain in a box with a picture on it at a fine profit and market it hard, generation after generation, as the modern and healthy way to start the day. And it worked brilliantly. Within a couple of generations, an entire nation had swapped the slow-burning breakfast their grandparents ate for a bowl of sweetened grain, and had been convinced that the swap was progress and that the old way was somehow bad for them. My people simply never bought the box. That's the entire difference between that farmer's morning and yours. Not wisdom, not secrets. He just never got sold to. And let me give you a practical word for the folks who'll say they've no time for that in the morning, because it's the commonest objection, and it's a fair one. Nobody's asking you to fry potatoes at 4:30. But hard-boil a dozen eggs on a Sunday, and they're sitting there all week ready in 10 seconds. Cook a pan of sausage or bacon ahead and warm it. 2 eggs scrambled in butter takes 3 minutes. Honestly, less time than queuing for the sweet coffee that's going to fail you by 10. And if you're an oatmeal person, have the proper long cooking oats, not the instant packets, which are mostly sugar wearing an oat costume. And put cream and butter and a handful of nuts in it rather than sugar and jam, and it'll hold you far better. The old way wasn't complicated, it was just real, and real doesn't have to take an hour. And I'd add a word about children in this, since it's where it matters most. A child sent off to school on a bowl of sweet cereal is a child whose blood sugar will fall out from under them halfway through the morning. And then they're foggy and fidgety and can't sit still and can't concentrate, and everyone decides something's the matter with the child. Often as not, there's nothing the matter with the child. The child is running on paper. Give that same child eggs and a bit of meat and some real bread with butter, and watch what happens to their morning. It's not magic, and it won't fix everything, and I'll not claim it will, but it's the cheapest experiment a parent could run, and a great many parents who've tried it have been astonished by the difference. Now let me be the honest neighbor, because I'd be doing you real harm if I let you walk away with the wrong idea here. That farmer's breakfast is sized for that farmer's day. He is about to do 7 hours of heavy physical labor. He'll walk miles, lift, haul, swing, bend, and he'll do it again tomorrow and every day. That breakfast is fuel for that work, and it fits it exactly. If you eat that same breakfast and then sit at a desk for 8 hours, that is not the same thing at all, and I'll not pretend it is. The food and the work went together, and taking one without the other is not the old way, it's just a big breakfast. So take the principle, not the portion. The principle is fat and protein and whole food and very little sugar. The portion should fit your actual day. 3 eggs and bacon might be right for a builder or a nurse on her feed-all shift. 2 eggs might be plenty for a desk worker. Scale it to your life, honestly. And I'm no doctor, and this isn't medical advice, and I'd be a fool to give it. Folks are different. If you've got diabetes or heart trouble or cholesterol you're managing, or you're pregnant, or you're on medicines, or your doctor has told you something about your diet, then listen to your doctor and not to me. The business of fat and cholesterol in the diet is something people have argued about fiercely for decades, and the advice has swung back and forth more than once, and I'm not the man to settle it for you. What I'll tell you is what my people eat and why it works for the life they lead. And you take that to your own doctor and your own good sense. And I'd add one more honest thing. Some folks genuinely aren't hungry in the morning and do fine without breakfast at all, and there's nothing wrong with that either. The old folks ate a big breakfast because they were about to do a big day's work before they'd eat again. If your body isn't asking, don't force it. With all that said, honestly, let me tell you what the real lesson is, because it's simpler than any of this. Stop eating sugar in the morning. That's it. That's the whole thing. If you take nothing else from me today, take that one. Because your morning sets the whole shape of your day. Start it with sugar, and you've committed yourself to the roller coaster. Up and down and up and down, hungry every 90 minutes, tired by 11, reaching for something sweet at 3, and wondering why you've no energy. Start it with fat and protein and real food, and the whole day levels out. You're not hungry. You're not crashing. You're not thinking about food at all, which is the truest sign that you've eaten properly. You just go about your day, steady, the way that farmer goes about his field. And notice, as always, that the old way was the cheap way. Eggs from your own hens, meat from your own hog, potatoes from your own ground, bread from flour. There's not one costly thing on that whole table, and there's not one thing on it that came in a package with a picture on the front. The most sustaining breakfast a family could eat was also very nearly the cheapest one they could make, and it was made from what they already had. Whereas the boxed sugar breakfast, they cost money every single week, forever, and leaves you hungry besides. That's the trade folks made, and nobody ever showed them the terms. And there's one honest caution I want to add for anyone who tries this, because it catches folks out and they give up too soon. If you've been running on sugar for years, your body has got used to it, and the first few days of eating this way can feel odd. You might feel a bit flat or headachy, or find yourself craving something sweet at the usual times out of sheer habit, because your body's expecting the flare-up it's always had, and it doesn't come. That passes, usually within a week or so, and what's on the other side is the steady, level, unbothered feeling I've been describing. But you have to get through the first few days to find it, and a lot of folks quit on day 2 and conclude it doesn't work. It works. Give it a fortnight before you judge it, and if you feel genuinely unwell rather than just a bit odd, stop and talk to your doctor, because that's not what I'm describing, and everybody's different. So here's what I'd leave you with. Tomorrow morning, do one thing. Have eggs, however you like them, cooked in butter with something real alongside, and skip the cereal, and skip the pastry, and skip the juice, and skip the sugar in your coffee, just once. And then notice, and I mean actually pay attention, what time you get hungry. Notice whether 10:30 arrives with that hollow feeling or whether it just goes by. Notice whether you think about food at all before dinner time. That's the whole experiment. It costs you nothing, and your own body will tell you the answer better than I ever could. Because in the end, the Amish breakfast isn't magic, and it isn't a secret. It's just fuel that burns slow, eaten by people who need it to. It's a log instead of a handful of paper, and every single morning, most folks light the paper and then spend the rest of the day wondering why they're cold. If this is the kind of practical, honest old wisdom you've been hungry for, the kind that makes you capable and self-reliant and connects you back to the good sense of those who came before, then stay here with me. There's so much more where this came from, and I aim to bring it back to you, one piece at a time, always honestly. Subscribe, and we'll keep remembering the old ways together, because some of the most valuable things we ever knew are the simple ones we let ourselves forget. And the plain old truth about what a body ought to eat before a day's work is surely one of them.